I can write the full story, but an 1,800-word story is too long to fit reliably in a single response. To avoid the story being cut off, I'll provide it in a continuation-friendly format. Single dad bought an abandoned garage for $2,000 and then turned it into a car empire. The old garage stood at the edge of town like a forgotten memory. Its rusted metal doors hung crooked on broken hinges. Weeds pushed through cracked concrete. Rainwater leaked through holes in the roof, and shattered windows stared out at the world like empty eyes. Most people drove past without giving it a second glance. But for one man, it looked like hope. On a cold autumn morning, 34-year-old Daniel Carter stood in front of that abandoned building holding the hand of his 8-year-old son, Noah. The garage had been empty for nearly 12 years. Locals called it a waste of space. Some even laughed when they heard someone was thinking of buying it. Daniel didn't laugh. He had already spent years hearing people tell him what he couldn't do. His wife had passed away after a sudden illness 3 years earlier, leaving him to raise Noah alone. Since then, life had become a constant battle. He worked long hours at a repair shop, struggled to pay rent, and often stayed awake at night wondering how he would provide a better future for his son. Yet despite everything, one dream refused to die. Before life became difficult, Daniel had always dreamed of owning his own garage. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and never giving up on your dreams, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs inspiration today, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories. Daniel looked at the abandoned building one last time before signing the papers. The asking price was only $2,000 because nobody wanted it. In truth, the structure was barely standing. But Daniel wasn't buying the building. He was buying a chance. The moment he handed over his savings, a fear rushed through him. Every dollar he had worked for was gone. He knew many people thought he had made a terrible mistake. Maybe they were right. The first few months were brutal. The roof leaked during every storm. The electrical system barely worked. Rats had made nests in several corners of the garage. Daniel spent his weekdays working full-time and his evenings cleaning, repairing, and rebuilding the property. Most nights he worked until after midnight. His hands became covered with cuts and bruises. His back ached constantly. There were moments when exhaustion became so overwhelming that he sat alone on the concrete floor wondering whether he should quit. But every time those thoughts appeared, he looked at Noah. His son never complained. Instead, Noah spent weekends helping his father sweep floors, paint walls, and organize old tools. The two became a team. One evening, while fixing a broken section of the roof, Daniel noticed Noah sitting on an overturned toolbox drawing pictures in a notebook. The pages were filled with sketches of cars and trucks. At the top of one page were 3 simple words. Dad's Dream Garage. Daniel stared at those words for a long time. Something changed inside him that day. He realized he wasn't just rebuilding a garage. He was rebuilding their lives. 6 months later, the garage finally opened. The grand opening wasn't grand at all. There were no balloons. No ribbon cutting. No crowds. Just a faded sign that read Carter Auto Repair. The first day passed without a single customer. The second day brought only one. The third day brought none. Bills continued arriving. Money continued disappearing. Doubt began creeping back into Daniel's mind. Then something unexpected happened. An elderly woman arrived with an old pickup truck that other mechanics had refused to repair. Daniel spent nearly 10 hours diagnosing the problem. He charged her only for the parts and a small amount of labor. The woman was shocked by his honesty. A week later she returned, not with another repair, but with 3 new customers. Word began spreading. People talked about the hardworking single father who treated customers fairly. 1 customer became 5. 5 became 20. 20 became 50. Within a year, Daniel had more work than he could handle alone. For the first time in years, he felt hope replacing fear. He hired a young mechanic who had struggled to find employment. Then another. Then another. The abandoned garage slowly transformed into a thriving business. But success brought new challenges. A large auto repair chain opened nearby and immediately began undercutting prices. The corporation had more money, more equipment, and more advertising power. Many people assumed Daniel's small business wouldn't survive. Revenue dropped. Customers became harder to attract. Employees worried about losing their jobs. The pressure felt unbearable. One night Daniel sat alone in the garage after everyone had gone home. Rain tapped against the roof. The same roof he had repaired with his own hands. As he looked around the building, memories flooded back. The broken windows. The empty floors. The endless nights of hard work. Everything he had built was suddenly at risk. For a moment he felt defeated. Then he remembered why customers had trusted him in the first place. Not because he was the cheapest. Not because he was the biggest. Because he cared. The next morning Daniel changed his strategy. Instead of competing on price, he focused on service. Every customer received detailed explanations. Every repair was completed with honesty. Every person was treated with respect. Slowly, something remarkable happened. Customers returned. Then they brought friends. Then family members. The large corporation had resources. Daniel had trust. And trust proved stronger. Over the following years, Carter Auto Repair became one of the most respected garages in the region. The business expanded into a second location. Then a third. Daniel introduced training programs for young mechanics who needed opportunities. Many of those trainees came from difficult backgrounds. Some had been unemployed. Others had dropped out of school. Several had nowhere else to go. Daniel saw himself in them. He remembered what it felt like when people doubted you. He remembered being told his dream was impossible. So he gave others the chance he once needed. The impact spread far beyond cars. Families found stability. Workers gained confidence. Young people discovered purpose. What had started as a crumbling garage slowly became something much bigger. Years passed. Noah grew older. The little boy who once swept floors became a talented engineer with a deep love for automobiles. One afternoon, shortly after graduating from college, Noah returned to the original garage. Although the company now operated multiple facilities, Daniel still kept the first building. It remained his favorite place. Father and son walked through the shop together. The walls were clean. The equipment was modern. The floor shined beneath bright lights. It looked nothing like the abandoned structure Daniel had purchased years earlier. Near the office entrance hung a framed photograph. It showed the garage exactly as it had appeared on the day they bought it. Broken. Rusty. Forgotten. Noah stood in front of the picture for several moments. Then he looked at his father. He realized something important. The photograph wasn't there to remind people how bad the garage once looked. It was there to remind them how far they had come. Success had never been about buildings. It had never been about money. It had been about refusing to surrender. A few months later, Carter Automotive Group officially became one of the fastest growing independent automotive businesses in the state. Industry leaders wanted to know Daniel's secret. Investors wanted meetings. Business magazines wanted interviews. But Daniel's answer never changed. He simply said that people matter. Machines can be repaired. Buildings can be rebuilt. Businesses can grow. But when people believe in one another, extraordinary things become possible. One winter evening, long after the company had become successful, Daniel drove past the neighborhood where he had once struggled to survive. He saw families walking home. Children playing outside. Workers finishing long shifts. He remembered those difficult years when every dollar mattered. He remembered the fear. The uncertainty. The loneliness. And he remembered the abandoned garage that everyone else ignored. What looked worthless to others had become the foundation of an empire. Not because of luck. Not because of miracles. Because one father refused to quit. Before we reach the end of this story, leave a comment below and tell us, what dream are you still holding on to, no matter how difficult life becomes. A few days later, Daniel visited the original garage one last time before heading to a company event. The shop was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the windows. He walked across the floor slowly. Every corner held a memory. Every wall told part of the journey. He could almost see the younger version of himself working late into the night, exhausted but determined. He could almost see little Noah sweeping dust into piles while dreaming about the future. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. Not because of success, but because they had survived. Because the impossible had become real. Because a broken building had become a symbol of hope. And because somewhere out there, another struggling parent might be standing in front of their own abandoned dream, wondering whether it's worth one more try. If that person could see Daniel's story, they would learn something powerful. The world may overlook you. People may doubt you. Circumstances may seem impossible. But your future is not determined by where you start. It is determined by whether you keep moving forward when everything tells you to stop. The abandoned garage that cost only $2,000 eventually became the heart of a car empire. But the greatest achievement was never the business itself. It was the life Daniel built for his son. A life created through sacrifice, courage, persistence, and love. And in the end, that was worth far more than any fortune. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Your support helps bring more inspiring stories to people around the world. Because sometimes all it takes is one person, one dream, and one chance to change everything forever.